if you're in the creative services space, not everything that you do is quantifiable and it's not measured against some kind of growth, revenue, profit margin chart. But I would encourage every single person, if it can't be measured in some way, it might not matter. And you're going to have a much harder time justifying why it is that you do what you do for how much money you do it for. So there's a concept I've been working on. I just refers to as the two B's. What is the baseline and what is the benchmark? Context again. So let's just say, for example, it's, tell me something that's kind of hard to measure. And let's see if we can do it together. I might fail here. So something that you might run into a lot, either by observation or something that you're dealing with.
How about just like my personal popularity?
Ooh. Okay, so maybe on social?
Sure.
Okay, so you're helping your client develop their social presence?
Yeah, let's say we have that budget,
Yes.
and we're spending against that budget, and
Okay.
I want the output to be more popular. I
Okay.
want to be more popular.
Love it.
Yeah.
This one's very hard to measure in terms of like ROI.
Right.
Like you're not going to make money on this. So
Right.
I would ask you lots of questions like, why does it matter to you? And you would say things like, well, you know what? I just feel like to compete with the Joneses, if you will. It's just I feel like I'm less than.
Do you want me to tell you a real answer?
Yeah, please.
Well, I want more speaking gigs.
Okay, perfect.
I want to get invited to those dinners with Alex Hermosi.
Okay.
I want to, be out speaking. It's hypothetical, right?
Okay, this is perfect.
Yeah.
So we think that having a stronger social presence with a greater follower size, with higher engagement, would then get you invited to be at those places, right? Okay, it's wonderful. So how many speaking? So we'll do the full sales role play here. We're just going to dive into it. Okay.
Yeah.
So how many more speaking gigs would you consider a success at the end of the year?
No, my phone is not ringing right now. Like no one's
Okay.
calling. So I want to have a goal of doing at least a half a dozen this year.
I like that. Very realistic. I like that because some people say 100. I'm like, from 0 to 100?
No, I wanna do
You're
6.
crazy.
Yeah.
You can't even. 6 is a good number. Does it matter if you're paid for the speaking gigs or just the caliber of the people you're speaking next to?
It depends on the opportunity. So if it's like speaking, at a Inc. 5000 event or
Yeah.
something, I would probably do it because of the, who else is in the room.
Right.
If this is like, Joe Blow's conference, I might think twice about it.
Okay, so maybe a mixed portfolio of like high caliber, well-known established brands, or some ginormous person is going to speak and you're going to speak before or after them. Those one we don't need to worry about money. It's the prestige, and we'll trade on that later. Maybe the other ones that don't have the same prestige or brand name recognition, you have to be paid for.
Yeah.
Hypothetically speaking, how much money you think would be like? That's kind of, we have to set the baseline at that mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would that be?
So like if you hired me as a director on set, my day rate is about $10,000.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So like 10K.
Yeah.
Perfect. This is great. So let's look at the baseline now where your social media is, and we do have to go through it with you. We would probably pick maybe 1 or 2 platforms to work on first. I believe in focus. If possible, I would pick 1.
Yeah.
But let's just say it's 1 or 2. Which 1 or 2 might matter the most to you?
Let's do Instagram today.
Instagram is good. And okay, this is fantastic. And I would come up with a strategy, I think, for Instagram and LinkedIn with not a lot of extra work, because I
Okay.
think there are a lot of eyeballs and opportunities there as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we would look at your follower count and what you hope to achieve. So this would be the benchmark against it, right? So there's a baseline, the benchmark. So by when do we want to accomplish what, and what metrics will matter to you? Sometimes it's increased engagement, sometimes it's followers, or something else. Do you have an idea of what that might be?
I want to do, at least 1 speaking gig in the next 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
At least 1.
Okay.
And I'm thinking that if I get 1, then that will sort of help open the door for others. Because people ask me, well, where else have you spoken? And I don't have any good answers. It's like, oh, I haven't had the opportunity yet. But like as soon as seems like open the door for 1, others can fall into line.
Yeah.
And so it's about the optics. My Instagram is very low, for example. I only have, I have under 10,000 followers. It's not very impressive. I need to be up over 100,000 or maybe, 1 million, but over 100,000 would be nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is very good. So in the way that I would do this, I'm breaking character. The way that I would do this is propose some hybrid weird thing. Because what I'm hearing from you, Brian, back in character, what I'm hearing from you is it's important that you get the right kinds of gigs within a certain period of time. And I think having a larger social presence is only one part of that. I have other strategies, if you would consider it, I would like to talk to you about that have nothing to do with your social followers at all, if your main primary goal is to be speaking at these places.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I'm all ears.
Okay, so I would suggest that we cut together a speaker's reel, and that you might have to just bite the bullet and speak at some event where you get to choose what you want to talk about. They don't get any ability to input that. And part of it is you get to bring your crew to shoot, because you need to make that piece where it becomes something that you can share on social. So we might have to bite the bullet, and that might be part of the strategy. So even though you might know of me as a social media marketer to help you there, I think the better plan is to do this and spend your money and your time and resources doing that. And we can get into a full plan there. And then part of it simultaneously is to start to develop a social media strategy for you that reflect who you are and your brand value.
I love that. Yeah.
And that would be kind of it. And then we'd talk about money. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think those opportunities for creative people to negotiate outside of the straight ROI calculation is huge. We maybe we just don't think about it though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in a situation like this, let's just say I floated a number by you that you're like, oh, that's not going to work, right?
Yeah.
Then I could say, why don't we do this? Why don't we set up a revenue model that works for you? Whereas when you achieve certain goals and hit those benchmarks, you release a certain amount of funds because now you have confidence it's working. I'm willing to take some risk with you if you're not willing to spend the money up front. But then that also means that the potential I get is going to be a little bit higher than if you just paid me a flat fee up front, where you take all the risk. So we're willing to share the risk. I get a little piece of the back end, and we'll find a model that works. Anywhere in between could work for me.
Yeah, I love that. What do you call that? Tiered pricing or back end? What do you call that? What's the label for it?
I should know this term, but it's kind of like, the simple term would be some kind of commission or royalty based on hitting benchmarks.
Yeah.
So there's a baseline.
It's
like, I
structured.
don't want to work for free.
Yeah, it's
right?
pricing structure.
It is.
Yeah.
Right. So let's just say, for the argument's sake, I was going to charge you 20 grand to do this. And you're like, I can't do that right now. It doesn't seem justifiable. Right. So I said, what if we did something for 10? Would that make sense? So now I have to figure out a way to get my 10 and more, since I'm going to take the risk. So as we clearly define the different benchmarks in which we're going to achieve, as we unlock them, it unlocks more money, purse opens up a little bit.
Yeah.
And that would feel like, hey, I could live with that.
Yeah, that's performance-based pricing.
Yes.
But how do you feel about like a barter or even like an equity stake?
I like barter if the thing that you have to offer is something that I would have gone out and bought in the first place.
Yeah, I'm a car company. I don't have $1 million to spend on a car commercial with you, but I can give you a free car, every year for the next decade.
Yeah, and if it's a brand that I like,
Yeah.
and I would make that deal. I've done deals like that.
Yeah.
And the word of like caution people is, if they make something that you don't want and you don't use, then that is not of much of value to you.
Yeah.
Unless you know someone else who wants that and can use that, then you have to do 2 trades now. Like it's a little more complicated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then equity stake.
Equity, I think you have to have a very mixed portfolio in, because if you do all equity, you could wind up having giant winners or just complete losses, and now you can't feed yourself.
Yeah.
And so I think there's going to be some balance between, I got paid what I asked for, some hybrid version, and then an equity play. And equity, it's really dependent on the person in front of you, how they are as a business operator. I have equity stake in a couple different companies, some of which I know the money's gone. It's gone forever because that person is not a responsible operator.
Yeah.
And it'll be a miracle if anything ever happens.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about angel investing. Like, it's already established that when you're an angel investor, you have money to lose.
Yeah.
You can afford to lose it.
Yes.
You're not angel investing unless you have money to lose.
Is it, I don't know the exact percentage, but is it like 7 out of 8 companies you're going to invest in are total dogs, and you're just looking for the 1 out of 8 that's going to make it up for like 20 times?
Yeah, who knows?
Something like that. There's a ratio.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's super favorable. Yeah, so
Right. It's a
caution
lot of
about that.
risk.
I mean, we were just sitting back, chopping it up, reminiscing about the good old days and all that. Tracking my